Visual branding isn't just about looking pretty. The power of a good visual brand can mean that your brand is recognized, that your brand stands out from all the other businesses in your field doing the exact same thing, looking the exact same way. It also builds loyalty and trust and credibility, helps you to charge more, helps you to design easier, and a plethora of other things. Because having a good visual brand and having a maintained, strong visual brand is really, really powerful for your business and is going to help your business to grow, to look professional, and is something that you're actually really proud of. So I want to show you how you can build and maintain a really strong visual brand for your business. So let's dive in. Hi, if we haven't met before, my name is Jackie and I'm a graphic designer with 10 years in the industry, 10 years and more, or even 10 plus years in the industry, creating graphics for business owners, helping them build strategic brands for their businesses and teaching business owners how they can do this for themselves as well. And so branding isn't just about looking pretty. It's not just about having a pretty social media page or a pretty flyer to hand out or a pretty website. There is so much strategy when it comes to design for your business. And it can't just be chucked together. It can't just be haphazard. It can't just be something different, chasing the next pretty thing that you see. You're like, oh, that's a nice template, or that's a cute color, and using that on your next graphic. That won't cut it if you want a successful, thriving, and professional business. By professional, I don't mean stuffy and corporate. I mean professional as in you look like a pro and people can trust you, because that's what professionalism really is. And so a good visual brand does that. It helps your business to look professional. It helps people that when they first see your business, when they first come in contact, whether it's a social media post or they're coming to your website or someone gives them a flyer, whatever it is, it means that first point of contact, they think, oh, wow, cool. They're not thinking, oh, that looks like a bit of a sloppy business. They look like they're just starting out. I don't know if I want to work with them or I trust them yet. It might not mean anything about how great your product or service is, but if it's looking sloppy, people are going to make those assumptions. And so if we have that really strong visual brand from the get-go, those assumptions are good. People are judging our business in the first few seconds of seeing it. We want to get past that first initial judgment in a good way. We want them to think, oh, I want to come back to that business, or I want to keep thinking about that business. I want to look into that business more, not, oh, that's cute and you've forgotten about. We've done all that work to get in front of someone's eyeballs. So we want to make sure that we're using our branding to then get to that next level, that next step in the customer journey. So beyond making your business look professional, a strong brand will also help you to be recognizable. It means that when someone actually continues on the customer journey with you, they're going, I'm going to show you some really great example of this soon. When they continue on the customer journey of this, then it means that when they see you for the first time and then they come to your website and then they go and click to a product or a service, everything is consistent and it helps them to feel like they belong, helps them to feel like it makes sense, helps to really amplify your message and your messaging and who you work with. And it also means that when someone sees you on your Instagram post over here and they might see a flyer later on that day or they see your shop front, they're recognizing you. They're beginning to form a visual connection with you and your business. Like, you know that if I say the word Coke, you're going to think of the red and the white writing. If I say Nike, you're probably going to think of a black and a white tick. We have these visual connections in our brain and we want people to do this with your business. And even as simple as social media, if you're beginning to use the same visual cues every time, maybe it's the same colors or the same fonts or the same style over and over, when someone sees you on their scroll and they're like, oh, Jackie uses that purple color, they might stop because they recognize you and they want to connect with you even more. So it creates that recognizability. It also helps you to build that credibility and that rapport and that trust. And it helps you to be able to charge more. If someone sees your business and it looks really amateur and sloppy, they're going to be like, oh, cool, I'll just be paying like it's a really cheap product or service. And having a really great brand doesn't mean you need to charge exorbitant prices. You could still have a really affordable brand, but it just means that people are going to build that trust with you quicker and work with you quicker. Or if you do want to charge that higher tier pricing, you've got that credibility from the professional graphics, because barely anyone's going to build trust with you unless they actually already know you and you've spent that time building so much rapport. Then they might work with you for a high ticket offer. But if you've got a really ugly brand or a really unprofessional looking brand, it's going to take a lot longer to convert someone into that high ticket offer. So being able to have a really great brand means you can charge more sooner. And having that really strong and consistent visual brand just means that your graphics are easier to design. It means that when you jump onto Canva, you don't have to be like, oh, what color am I going to use today? Or what font am I going to use today? Those decisions are made for you and it makes it so much quicker to design. You just have your templates there, you change the text, you might add a different picture, and you're done. That's literally all I have to do with my social media posts these days because my branding is sorted. And so now I want to chat about the elements that need to be in your strong brand. Like what makes up a strong visual brand? So obviously you've got your whole brand as a whole. You've got things like your brand voice, you've got things like your brand messaging, your values, your quality, your vision, and you've also got your brand visual. So that includes everything from your logo to your color palette, to your fonts, to your photo style, to the elements you use in your graphics, to the general style of your graphics. Do they look like 70s retro or do they look really hand-drawn? Whatever it is, that also is inside your visual brand. And so that's what I want to chat about with you today is what needs to be in that visual brand so that you can keep it really strong, so you can have those things ticked off your checklist, so you can get get straight to designing really clearly and have a brand that really works for you to build that connection, to build that rapport, and to build that professionalism and trust in your business. So the first thing, and the one that everyone always thinks of, is obviously your logo. You need your logo designed. You need it clear, you need it professional, you need it transparent. I've got a whole video that goes into your logo design. I'll link it here if you're watching on YouTube. And that video is going to help to show you like what is actually needed to go into your brand. And it's really important that you have a logo that's versatile. You don't just have one soft logo that you just use everywhere. You have a logo that's great for all the different needs, whether it's small or large, whether it's just an icon, whether it's the text and the icon, whether it's the text and icon stacked or next to each other. You need all these different variations to support your business in all the different areas you're going to use your logo. It's going to be on your social media. It's going to be on a letterhead. It's going to be on a website. It's going to be on a t-shirt. Not every business is going to have every one of those, but you need your logo to work in all different scenarios. So first thing you need for your brand is your logo. That's a given, but it needs to be there. But what I think is actually even more important than your logo is having the rest of those visual brand elements. Even if you look at my business, you'll barely actually see my logo. It's the whole visual brand that tells that story, that builds the rapport, that builds a connection. As I said, tells the brand story of my business. When you look at my business and my brand, you don't think, oh, she's a corporate stuffy kind of business. Corporate stuffy businesses are fine, but you don't think that about my brand. You think, oh, it's colorful, it's bright, she has fun, she's a bit silly, like whatever that is. And so we can have our visual brand tell a story of our business before people even get to know us, before they even read a word on our website. They've got that connection with us. They know if we're for them or not. Like if you see my brand and it seems really fun and playful and you're not that kind of person or business, that's totally okay. And you'll probably decide maybe Jackie isn't the right designer for me. Or if you are about having fun in business, you love creating and you love having fun and you love taking business a little less seriously, then you might think, oh, Jackie's the kind of person I want to work with. And so for your business, how can you pre-qualify people when they see your brand, when they see your visuals and they see your social media, your website? How can you pre-qualify them that when they see that, they're deciding whether you are for them or not? And it's okay to deter people that aren't for you. We don't want to work with everyone. We're not going to work well with everyone. So making that pre-qualifying with your brand is really, really helpful. All right, so you're going to have not just your logo, but your color palette. So I recommend having 3 to 6 or so colors used in your color palette. You want to make sure you're having some really light tones and some really dark tones and a couple in between. You want your light and your dark to work really well together because you need light color text and dark color text. People often get stuck doing just the midtones of colors and they find it really hard to actually create graphics. You need those darker and lighter colors too. So you need your color palette. You also need your fonts. You need a certain set of fonts you're going to use over and over again in your business. You might choose maybe 2 to 3 fonts, no more than 3 fonts max. Again, I've got a whole video on the color palette. I'll link that, and a whole video on choosing your fonts as well. So I'll link those too. And so having that strong color palette and the strong font set will make sure your graphics are all really consistent because every graphic you're using the same colors and every graphic you're using the same fonts. You do not have to use all of your colors and all of your fonts in every graphic. Using at least 1 or 2 of those in every graphic is really important to building that brand recognizability. And then you also want to have your consistent brand elements, and that's style. People often forget that you have a brand style, but you can use the same colors and fonts on a graphic over and over again. You can have your color palettes and your fonts sort of be, if you don't know your brand style, your graphics could look totally different every single time. So it's really important you think about that brand style to begin with as well. Again, I've got a video that's going to help you with that. And beyond those things, there's obviously the less visual elements, like making sure you have a consistent brand voice, making sure you have a consistent brand tone, and your messaging is really, really clear. I'm not an expert in those things, so I'm not going to pretend to teach you about that, but make sure you've also considered those things as well. All right, so once you've decided on your logo and your color palette and your brand style, you then need to apply those to everything you're making. Every single visual element of your business should use these things. It should carry across this brand look so you build that consistency and that recognizability. The best tool for doing this is making sure you have your brand guidelines sorted. So your brand guidelines or your brand style guide is just a graphic that kind of just helps you at a glance to see what are my colors, what are my fonts, what is my style. You might even choose some Canva frames that you're going to use over and over again. You might lay out some of your favorite brand elements if you have that consistent style. Like often I use a cloud or a little blurry shape, and those are my brand elements. It gives me some brand consistency. It means I've got some tools to create graphics really quickly because it's not just looking really bare all the time. And so laying all of those different elements onto that brand style guide is so useful for you to refer back to over and over. Now, if you've gotten to this point and you're thinking, I don't really have my brand sorted, I don't even know how to choose my colors or how to choose my fonts, I've actually got a free video series. It's not on YouTube. I'm going to give you access to it if you enter your email in on the link that I'm going to share in the description. But it's going to give you the tools to help decide on what your brand should look like. It's going to give you a template so you can create your own brand style guide. And it's then going to give you some Canva tips and tools and design principles to help you make sure that when you use those graphics, those colors and those fonts, it actually creates a really strong brand and it actually looks good rather than just being a little bit of a haphazard mess. And so if you want to grab that video series, hit the link in the description or the show notes, and you'll be able to see it there and watch it straight away. They're 3 super bingeable, super quick, super punchy, super visual graphics that are going to really help you to take your branding to the next level and help you decide these things for your business. And so once you have your style guide, you can then actually also apply, if you have Canva Pro, I really recommend building out your brand kit. So Canva lets you insert your colors, you can insert graphics, you can insert photos, you can insert your fonts, you can insert your logos, and you can then have all of those things really easily accessible on your Canva so that every time you're designing a graphic, you can just click those fonts or click those colors and they're right there for you to use. And if you're watching on YouTube, I want to show you a bit of an example of how your branding can be applied to every touch point of your business. I'm just going to share with you. So, and if you're just listening on the podcast, you can just hit up my website or my Instagram and you can see this in person. But in essence, from the first touch point where people get to know my business, whether it's Instagram, whether it's a Facebook ad, whether it's a YouTube video, people can then see my branding. They get an idea of what I'm about straight away. Those colors are the same. The fonts are the same. The vibe is the same. Then they might navigate to my website. And again, everything is the same. Those colors are the same. The fonts are the same. That brand consistency and that message and that vibe is all there. People feel nurtured as they go through the customer journey with me. And then they might click on a freebie or they might watch my free video series or they might purchase one of my cheaper products. And again, there's that consistency of what everything looks like. People feel nurtured. It feels so thought through that people know that they can trust me, that this isn't just some quick idea that I've had. This is a thought through offering or a product that they're going to get so much value out of. Having those consistent graphics communicates that to people. And then they might choose to work with me. They might choose to join one of my programs or my DIY course. And again, when they purchase all of that, everything is still consistent. The Facebook group, the course videos, the course workbooks, everything is consistent in helping them to feel nurtured and really well taken care of, because we don't just want people to buy our product. We want to make sure that we're serving them well and that they get a really good experience from working from us, because one of the best ways to market your business is word of mouth. And so you want to make sure that once someone gets into working with you, you're still looking after them. That brand vibe is still there so that they can then share you with their friends, with their colleagues, with their workmates, and you can get more sales through that word of mouth marketing too. And a little bonus tip for you, if you've got any extra programs or products like I talked about my DIY course or any other offerings, what I recommend doing is creating what I call like a mini brand or a mini logo for those products. If you're on YouTube, I'll put a few examples on the screen now. But in essence, like for my co-creation club, for my DIY course, my Seriously in Business challenge, all of those different programs have their own little logo. I was actually designing a sub-brand logo for a friend and client of mine recently. It was for a digital summit that she was sharing, or a virtual summit. In fact, this summit hasn't happened yet and I'm one of the speakers. So if you want to join that, feel free to join us. But in essence, it was called Redefining Marketing in 2024. And so it's all about marketing. It was a great summit and she was struggling to put together the graphics for it and her webpage for it. And I was like, look, you don't have to have a brand logo for this. Like there's no technical need for it. But I can tell you it's going to be so much easier to make your graphics and it's going to be more recognizable for your audience. So I just whipped together a sub-brand mark for her, and all that needed to be was just the fonts and colors she already uses for her business. They just put them together for her. And now she uses that on her webpage, on her social media posts, on her Instagram stories. Every time that she shares about this summit, she just whacks that logo on. It just means that when you're sharing things or you're creating things for your business, it just becomes so much easier. So if you've got any programs or summits or little offerings you have for your business, try creating a little sub-brand logo for it. It doesn't need to be anything intricate, but it just means that every time you talk about it, just put that logo on it. You don't have to retype out the text and make it look good every time. You can just put it on there, and it also means your audience is going to be able to recognize that even quicker and more easily, because they're like, oh, that's that virtual summit Hazel keeps talking about. It's right there in front of my face, easily to recognize. So those are some things to think about when you are thinking about creating and maintaining that strong visual brand. Making sure at the start to think about, what does my brand need to be? Applying that to a brand style guide, and then using those same fonts and colors and look around everything that you do, whether it's a social media post, a flyer, presentation, a podcast, anything you're doing should carry that brand consistency, because that's what's going to help you to stand out in your field. That's what's going to help you to look professional. That's what's going to help you to build that loyalty and trust with your audience. And just a little caveat here, if your brand isn't perfect, that's okay. Still use it consistently. It's better to use a bad brand consistently than just have everything totally haphazard. Obviously, you want to make sure you have a good brand, but that's not always going to be possible 100% of the time. So what you're working with now, start making it consistent. When you have time to build a proper brand, then use that consistently then too. But just having that consistency is so important for your business. So thank you for joining me for this episode. I hope you found it useful. If you're not already, make sure you follow me on Instagram. My handle is whitedeerdd, making sure you're following, subscribing, all of the wonderful things. And if you're wanting some more help building out your brand and building out your graphics and building out your style guide and learning those design principles to make sure that your graphics are looking amazing and communicating your value, make sure you check out that Seriously in Business challenge. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye.